May the force be with you is a phrase used to wish a person well to overcome a challenge. The invitation in this podcast, May the life force be with you, is to explore what it means to truly feel alive, to appreciate the physical, emotional and spiritual connection to our energy, and finally to understand how this impacts who you are and all that you do. May this conversation inspire you to thrive.
Hello, welcome to May the Life Force be with you.
Hello, Kahreela. How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, apart from I'm shocked at the British weather.
Oh my goodness. I know. Sorry for everyone listening. Like, we're so British. Talk about the weather is the first thing, but it's miserable.
Just before we pressed record, I was about to say that somebody posted an article from Mail Online that was trying to claim that June was the hottest June on record. And I'm like, that is fucking bollocks. Like, me and my flatmate were sitting on the sofa with the fire on and jumpers on, calling it an autumnal summer.
Mm-hmm. That's like, how I described the week this weekend.
Why do we live in a world where our journalists just makes things up?
Well.
There's a big answer to that question.
But no, it's true. It's and it really affects your mood, doesn't it? It really affects my life force energy. I was just sharing with you that I haven't been to the beach once. I literally live 10 meters away. I have not been once this year and sat on the beach and enjoyed the sunshine and the waves. One, because the waves are full of shit. And two, it's just been
really clarify that for anybody that isn't local and knows what's like. Why are the waves full of shit in Brighton, Fiona?
Well, it's because our now previous government allowed water companies to pump raw sewage into our seas and rivers whenever they goddamn please. And that has resulted in every single waterway in the UK being polluted. And it doesn't look very appealing these days. It's not very appealing. People get sick.
I mean, and you know,
that beautiful healing property of the sea is no longer available to me. I don't, I used to swim every morning. I used to love that feeling of the tingle of the cold sea or the cold air, depending on what time of year it was. And now I don't get that same buzz because I just don't want to go anywhere near it. It doesn't feel healing. It doesn't feel welcoming. It feels the opposite.
And I agree with you. I mean, the sea swimming was something I started in lockdown, like a lot of people. And it was something, it is amazing for your health and your life. Like, you get that hit of energy that is just amazing. But there is nothing better at putting you off than having to check the sewage level app. And for me, I'm like, if the sewage is bad on Tuesday, I don't care what the app says. It's still going to be bad on Thursday. Like, if it's not swimmable.
You can also just use your eyes and your gut and you go, that's not very appealing. And, oh my God, we do shit, no pun intended, or maybe there's a big pun intended. We do shit on the UK a lot, don't we? But it's a beautiful island with lots of beautiful people in it, and it just has lost its life force energy a little bit. So I really feel it, and I think we all collectively feel it. Now, I'm hoping that there's a change because we changed our government last week. In our Red, Blue or Circle podcast, we discussed some of that. But I'm optimistic of change, of people caring more. I feel a sense of shift to caring, and maybe that will be felt across all areas of our lives.
I think there's something, I agree that people care more, but we've seen landslides politically before. Usually when things get so bad that it has to swing the other way. And one thing that I I hope we evolve out of, where I kind of feel we are collectively and possibly personally in our lives as well. I think that's part of what this podcast is about, actually, is like, we tend to like wait until it's really bad to care, as opposed to hold and tend to. You know, like, why have we waited until there is literally sewage in the sea? I mean, how long are we going to wait? I know there's a lot of conspiracy around environment and stuff like that, but like, how long are we going to let what is clearly happening in terms of capitalism affecting nature and our nature? How bad are we going to let it get? Like, why do we wait for it to become a crisis point before we start standing for it, speaking for it, doing something about it? It's like we're so good at pushing things under the carpet until they are literally bursting out of the carpet.
Well, it's quite a human trait, isn't it? You know, when you think about how a lot of people manage their health, they wait till they're sick before they seek remedies to get better, or they get to that crisis point and then say, oh, I'm going to change the way that I live and I'm going to be healthier, more aware, more mindful, whatever the path might be. But we do tend to wait to the crisis point, or I'm not going to do this thing until I absolutely have to. Like, there's so many different ways it can ripple through. That deadline pressure gets things done. We're better at that end rather than, being preventative.
And taking care of the healthy state, it's like we're almost good at emergency state. The sewage thing is really interesting to me, because obviously the sewage, when I was a tour guide, one of the things I used to say is probably the person that bought, I can't remember his name now, but the person that bought the sewage system to London probably saved more lives than anybody else in London's history. And yet at the same time, when I zone out a bit, there is something so fundamentally mad about putting our waste in our life. Like, water is the life force energy of all of life. like it is meant to go in the soil, and it is not meant to go into the water cycle. And there's something so against life that we are putting our toxic energy into what is the life force energy of the planet.
Oh my gosh, I never thought of that before. And right.
And the thing is like, if you put it, I know gardeners now that are starting to go to the toilet in their garden. And the thing is, it's great in the soil. It has its place, and it's really good for the soils. Like, if anything, we're also depleting the soils in this country, because we're beings that are taking from the soils and not giving back to the soils. And it's like, there is something so fundamentally wrong with this. Like, why are we putting our waste in the water?
It's so wrong.
It's so wrong.
It's so obvious.
It's so wrong. And
when you say that,
I know, when you think about it, and then you're like, no wonder we're full of shadow and toxins. And like, if you think of everything as being a ritualistic, we are literally like, until we stop putting our waste into the life force energy, are we ever going to fully live?
Oh my goodness, that's blown my brain.
But it's true, isn't it? It's like,
yes, it is.
It's the source of all life on this planet, and humans are putting into it. And there's like, the thing is, is it's just such an example of misalignment, because if we just put our shit in the right place, it's not like it's waste. Like the fact we even call it waste, it's not waste. Like in the soils, it's, you know, it's so good for the soils. And in fact, there's even science. I've only heard this from people, but there's even science that is like, if you are depositing in the soils that you are eating from, the plants start to produce what you need because they can tell what you're deficient in and stuff like that. And so, and it's kind of like, this wasn't planned at all, but like, it's led quite beautifully into something that I said on the last episode that we did together on the blue and circle, where I realized we said quite a lot. There's a lot of things that I was like, should I have said that or may the life force be with you? The one that I was really sitting with was like, I just said we were all victims of colonialism, and I really didn't want to not expand on that, because obviously there are people that are much worse off because of it than everybody sitting in Britain. But what I meant in terms of that was, what I meant by it was that why I saw that we're all victims of it is because it causes displacement. In the sense that, like, if your abundance comes because you stole resources and land, you're not going to be able to, like, it's like you cheated. And so I think what we're feeling in Britain, you know, it's like there's all this abundance, but it's debt because we cheated. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's not it isn't actually coming from the land itself. And our disconnect, it's like it causes, I don't even want to say disconnection. Like what I saw is it causes displacement in the sense that, like, we don't know how to, and in fact, the sewage system started in like the height of the empire. Do you know what I mean? It's like it disconnected us from the true source of abundance because we started cheating and stealing. Like it comes from like a false source in a way, or a like out of alignment. It creates displacement is what I meant. And that isn't to take away from like how much worse it is for other races and people.
I know we've said, you know, about being UK, but I feel obviously what you're saying is true of any country that has been taken over by non-Indigenous people, right? I'm pretty sure the Australian would say the same. The US is the same, you know, everywhere that there's gone and been a spread from, you know, one nation to another will have gone through that same process. And also introduction of things that are not local, they're not Indigenous, they're not native to that land, to those people, to the environment, to, you know, the soil, and that extraction of that, or origins of that part of the land become smaller, more diminished over time, and in some places completely eradicated.
And it's like the persecution of the guardians of the land, of the gatekeepers of the land, of the people that would have said, don't put your shit in the water. Which sounds like an obvious thing, you know, but like it sounds like an obvious thing, and we've done it. We've done it all over the world, you know? And it's like there are many amazing tribes that literally have people that are there to be the voice of the planet, you know, and are there. There's one tribe who, when it's foreseen that, I think it's always a male, but when it's foreseen that this child is going to be one of the guardians of the planet, they're taken and they're kept in a cave till they're like 12 with their mother. and there's enough light in the cave for their eyesight to develop, and different members of the tribe come and tell them about life outside of the cave, but they're not allowed out of the cave. And then when they're like 12 or 13, they step out of the cave and they see the beauty of the planet for the first time. And they're like floored by it. You know, they take it like they are blown away by how much beautiful it is than what they were imagining in the cave. And so, and they're given that so that they remember how beautiful and how precious it is, so that they can remind the rest of the tribe not to cause harm to this immense and sacred beauty, because they see it at a point in their development where they know what it's like not to have it.
Wow, that's beautiful. But also I feel slightly extreme. I don't feel like, you know, isn't it, can't we find beauty in everything every day? Rather than, isn't the problem that we are locked in caves for 12 years? Or people do get locked in their own environments? And I'm sure there's an analogy for being, you know, not able to see what's around you. And people walk around like that every day. How do we lift that veil? You know, people don't need to suffer and be deprived in order to feel good. That's the message I took from that story. Tell me how I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. I think that is a very extreme, but you know, a lot of tribal culture, being a guardian to this earth, from what I can understand,
I'd love to be a guardian of the galaxy, extreme.
Right? Like, you know, like of the galaxy. I think one of the problems actually, I think one of the problems with the West is we have lost we want everything to be comfortable and easy. It's almost like we've lost the importance of extreme, the importance of, you know, actually maybe if water's giving you life, you don't just put your shit in it and you take the time to go and bury it. You know, like we've kind of lost I think that's part of the problem, is like we don't want to, I want to say pay the price, and I don't think that's the right expression, but I feel like I think we've lost in our culture. Like I hear it a lot in the spiritual self-help world. It's like instant manifestation, and it's like, is it instant? You know, like I know sometimes people have a massive breakthrough, but actually there's a huge amount of foundation work that happens for that big, you know, like very few things are instantly manifested in the physical realm, actually. And, you know, most things don't come.
A lifetime of work, right?
Yeah.
Lifetime, because little data points, you know, from my like digital brain, all the little data points that you have of yes, no's, left, right, in, out, back, forth, whatever, all add up to where you are now. And there's lots of things that you can do to bring awareness and action into your life that's more aligned with what the direction that you want to head. And therefore I think you become more aware of things. But I agree with you. There's a whole lifetime of data points, situations, circumstances, environment, and then there's a whole who your grandparents were that feed into what happens in your life as well. Their circumstances, we're carrying that DNA, we're carrying those, you know, the impacts of our ancestors with us. And I love when people find synchronicity and manifestation, because that to me is joy. and you get
Absolutely.
excited and you're like, I've got power, but you've got power, and and that's where the rubber hits the road, if you like. But it's all those micro decisions that you've made along the way, unconsciously, consciously, that all equal that moment, that beautiful synchronicity that happens. That's my take on it.
I agree. And I kind of feel like maybe things aren't meant to be as comfortable as we want them to be, or as easy as we want them to be. Maybe part of caretaking is the hero's journey, is the effort, is the
contrast.
Maybe that is what we can offer to the earth, and it's kind of like we have this very, very fast food, fast everything, instant, need it now mentality.
Convenience.
A convenient mentality. And actually, from what I can tell, what's right for the earth is like she will give you so much, but you need to put a bit of effort in. It's it's kind of like if you put a bit of effort in, yeah, and you need to, maybe caretaking is like efforting in a way, or like not just putting your shit in the sea because it's easier. But actually thinking about how we can take care of all of this wonderfulness that we have. And I'm sure I've said it on May the Life Force Be With You before, but one of the things that I absolutely love that my guides say is they're like, patience allows something to arrive in its most beautiful form.
I was just going to ask you what your guides might say.
Yeah, they say that. And like, and it's like, so if you rush something, it will never arrive. You stop it from its most beautiful formation. And they've said that for years. They said it during a course on, during the Venus Gates a few years ago. But what they extended recently about it, and they said, but there's also something very important about holding patience in your own heart, because when you are patient in your own heart, you are allowing your heart to become its most beautiful form as well. And, I suddenly saw, like, before then I was thinking all about the outer and the, like, if you do something with patience, you're allowing the manifestation to arrive in its most beautiful form. But what I didn't realize was, like, it's also allowing your heart to become a more beautiful heart. And when you think of somebody who has practiced things like mindfulness, things that are about the practicing of patience, like mindfulness, they tend to be more compassionate, wiser. Like it's true that it also allows the heart to become a more beautiful heart.
I could not agree more. And I'm not ready to share here yet, but something that I've been manifesting for 2 years came in its physical form this weekend. Mm-hmm. And I know it's because of all the things that you said. Patience, openness, open heart, kindness, compassion, all of it. Yeah. And it's a daily practice, and it's noticing the changes. It's noticing how if you change, others around you have permission to as well. It's about giving people permission to be themselves, you being yourself, like all of these things. And being consistent as well. I think that's one of the key ones. You know, people kind of go, oh my God, it didn't work today, so I'm going to change it. And it's something that comes up in business a lot. People panic and they go, oh, I tried this thing and it didn't work. So tomorrow I'm going to try something else. And then I'm going to try something else. And it's like, well, you're just putting a big old washing machine of like energy out there that's really confusing. And your signals, if your signals are constantly flashing and changing, nobody knows when to stop, pause, or go, because they're just like constantly going off like a disco. And that's where people can feel confused and they're like, why do I come to you? What are you talking about? Where is your energy? And then people just go, oh gosh, I don't want to go near that because it's all just too confusing, whether it's deliberately fell or not. Believe me, you are sending those signals out. So by, you know, being consistent, you know, being, as you say, patient with that means that there is an energy that people can start to resonate with because they feel comfortable in what you're emitting, because it's not erratic, it's not, you know, going to make them spontaneously combust one day. They know that they feel safe. And once you've created that environment of safety, of openness, then things do start to become attracted to that, and things start to come in because it's peaceful and we're naturally gravitating towards an energy that feels open, welcoming, and nourishing. And, you know, you want to hitch a wagon to that. So that's how I felt over the last couple of years, is just about being consistent. And even in that face of adversity, when it's so easy to go, oh my gosh, I'm going to throw in the towel, I'm going to give up on this, I'm going to start to put blame and guilt into my energy field. It's hard, it really is. But the more you can turn that into steady belief and and really lean into the patience, but also with action that is aligned, then good things can come. That's been my experience.
I agree. I think, and also, you know, it's funny, as you're talking, I'm like, where's the internal manifestation of this putting shit in the water? It's like, patience is also about letting the energy process flow without dumping your emotional stuff, you know, without dumping your emotional waste into the process, you know.
Murky the waters.
Learning to keep your internal waters clean, as opposed to controlling them, diverting them, stagnating them, dumping into them. It's like, what if we just learn in a way like that? To me, as patience, is it's like not needing the external proof, but being able to hold the flow and being able to let the flow lead you. Actually, in terms of aligned action, I think it's about really not trying to control the flow or dump in the flow or reject the flow, but just letting the flow lead you. And that is aligned action. And it does, that is not, to me, that is not instant manifestation, and it's not always very comfortable. If anything, patience is being comfortable in the uncomfortable. And
I was going to say, sometimes there might be a big old turtle that comes and hits you and knocks you off track, but you just keep on going.
Especially if you're swimming in the Brighton Sea right now. But it's interesting because this thing of like keeping the heart healthy through the exercise of patience. My guys were talking this weekend about when you're in too many contracts. Obviously, we were talking about contracts on one of our recent episodes, and they were saying the problem is when you're too contracted, eventually your heart shattered, or they were like, your heart shatters. Like you pull your heart in too many directions, which is also what we do when we panic and go, I'm going to do that, then I'm going to do this, then, you know. And what they were saying is like, you know, what we would consider a psychopath is somebody with a completely shattered heart chakra. So they've lost their ability to have empathy and compassion. And in a way, I think some of the big picture stuff that we're seeing is because human beings have, and again, if you think of the dates, colonialism, empirism, all of this stuff, there is this age of industry, everything like that. There is this shattering of heart chakras that has then, which is the opposite of patience, that then leads to what is these, because dumping in the rivers, that doesn't just affect humanity, that affects all of life. It's like, it's like these choices come from shattered hearts. And I kind of feel like part of the medicine of these times is to repair over-contracted, shattered. And it's interesting, it's the word shattered, isn't it? Like, in terms of life force energy, like shattered. By these practices of mindfulness and patience and creation that maybe isn't easy. Like, maybe isn't instant.
But do you know what? When you have those moments, when you feel that breakthrough of awareness of how your thought process has changed, it does become easy. You go, oh my God, why do I spend so much energy on the alternative, which is deep rumination, deep pain, re-triggering myself? Like, that's not a place to live. And so we have to shift this feeling of the discomfort of the pain being the go-to emotion, and the slight, our bodies and our minds are going, no, don't change, because I like this triggering feeling because I'm used to it. It's about rewiring those neural pathways to go, yeah, I'm done with you now. Thanks very much. I'd rather sit in this comfort over here than this discomfort of my story or my previous narrative. But it's just that bridge that can feel painful. And because we have a fear that it's an unfamiliar feeling to not feel discomfort, as crazy as that sounds, that is the bridge that we have to kind of overcome. And that's where I have to say my hypnotherapy, I'm loving it. Absolutely. This process and the breakthroughs that I've had instantly with people that I've been working with is so transformative, where, you can go from someone, 9 out of 10 redlining, stressed, rumination, destroying their life, to within 45 minutes going, gosh, what a waste of time that was. I'm done with that. I want to be present and enjoy life. And it's quite incredible. We just have to, again, going back to the previous episode, break those contracts. We break it in our minds and our neural pathways and our subconscious level that's been keeping us safe. And the intention of that fear, of that discomfort, the intention is always to keep us safe. It has a good intention. And it is there for a reason. And thank you very much. We're grateful. It keeps us, it keeps us alive. But it needs to now be quiet. It's not the dominant driver of our life force energy, of our decision making. And it's about minimizing its impact. And that's why I'm finding that hypnotherapy and speaking to the subconscious and not letting our minds try and logically work out how we do this is so powerful, because it's a super brain, it's a supercomputer we've got up there, and we only tap into a tiny amount of it. So suspend belief and let your subconscious do the work.
I wonder if it's about teaching safety is really important, obviously. We need that part of us that is afraid of getting hit by a car. Absolutely, And
that's why it's important that we recognize it and we thank it for its intention, and we don't say go away and leave us forever, because it's there to protect us and we're so grateful for it, but we reduce the size of it, we reduce the intensity of it, because it is an important part of life.
Or maybe it needs to just learn that comfort isn't necessarily safety. Like maybe it needs to learn that like you can still be safe and be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's the kind of great shift that I think our ancestors understood. And somehow, in a way, when you were speaking, I was like, it kind of boils down to integrity, I think. It's like if we do something out of integrity in order to stay safe, fast track something, be comfortable, it is not going to be safe in the long term. It's like, yes, putting the sewage into the waters saved a lot of lives in Victorian times, probably for about 200 years, actually. But now people are swimming in the sea and getting sepsis. And so, you know, it's like, it's almost like that part of us needs to expand its version of what safety is, you know, like, or like evolve.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Our version of safety, and you know, our fight, flight, freeze triggers are completely different to what they were 2,000 years ago, because of the way that we live our lives, which for 99% of us pretty much is in a world of safety. So the things that our mind are telling us to be on alert for are not the same level of intense triggers that we had when, you know, a wild animal might come and get us, or we were, you know, prone to famine or whatever it might be around us. And so our bodies are, you know, our makeup of our DNA is on the lookout for those triggers, but they're not really there. So to your point, we need to train that. What is true danger and safety and comfort, and how they now interplay in today's environments that we live in, so that we're not re-triggering a trauma that is quite frankly not present. It's a narrative, it's a story, but our physical bodies respond in that same way. Our ancestors would have done 200 years ago when they were running to keep alive, you know. And so how do we retrain that kind of variance of safety, comfort, discomfort, and how we process the story around it?
And imagine if that amazing guardian was suddenly made aware of what the dangers of now are. Like the political dangers, and, you know, like imagine if that guardian was like reminding people that it's probably not a good idea to get really drunk and leave all of the rubbish on Brighton Beach whenever the summer does show up in this country. Do you know what I mean? Like imagine if that guardianship was almost redirected into, there can be dangerous leaders and there can be positively, you know?
So we, again, on a previous episode, talked about leadership and our sovereignty over our own leadership. You know, we've got our own board and C-suite in our heads at all times, making the financial decisions, the data driven, the marketing decisions. Like you think of your control room of your mind as being like all these different decisions. If we're making these, you know, aligned in the purpose, you think of us as individual businesses, we're making these aligned decisions in a direction that we want to go for our own success and prosperity, whatever that means to whatever your personal brand is that you're building. Then that kind of decision making, that future vision, and how you make those decisions, why you're making those decisions, all become yours to own and to control and to manage. And so if we're all doing that at the micro level, then it can only have a ripple on that macro effect as well. And I thank you, because I'm going to bring in guardianship. That word really feels powerful when I do my next session with someone on the control room of their mind and how they can use their own power, because guardianship is nourishing, it's protecting, but it also feels dynamic, it feels empowering. And I think it's a beautiful word that I'm definitely going to bring into my session. So thank you for that.
I've taken from this is I'm going to widen. I'm going to invite that part of me that does make those instant decisions, that tries to protect my sense of comfort in a very immediate, like, I think what we've spoken about is that, like, when you mentioned, like, it didn't work. I'm going to go over here and do this now. Like, what you're doing in that moment, or what I do in that moment, is I'm like protecting my emotional body from feeling that feeling of failure or shame. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to feel this, so I'm going to go and do something else to not feel this. It's like guarding.
It's also not trusting your patience.
Yeah.
Let's do something rather than just waiting for it to happen. Yeah. It's not being patient.
We're kind of going to invite that guardian to go a bit like bigger picture than just my emotional nervous system and be like, why don't you be a guardian of, like, the path in 5 years? Or in fact, why don't you be a guardian of the path in 5 years and the next generations? And let's see if this decision, like, if you, how I'm saying it is, like, if you move it, and I know it's kind of a hypnotherapy technique that you could probably explain better, but if you move the view a bit more wide angle.
Oh, you can do, yeah. You can timeline it out to however far you want to.
You want to do an example of this now for the listeners?
Well, I wouldn't go into trance right now, but yeah, we all see our timelines in different ways. So just imagine, when you think of the future, some people see it left to right, some people see it straight ahead, some people see it up, and you can, create an image in your mind of what you want a year from now to look like, or further out, to your point, and you actually can vision what that image looks like. You make it big, you make it bright, you make it beautiful, you make it as vivid as you possibly can. And then you can then start to ask yourself, well, what does that image look like 6 months from now? And you bring it back towards you. And it gets slightly smaller as it gets closer towards you, until you kind of go in 3-month increments until you get to the now. But at each step, you're asking your subconscious, what do I need to have done at this point in order for me to get to my 12 month? And you'll find, in 6 months, it's going to look like this. In 3 months, it's going to look like Y. And then you finally go, and then now, what does it feel like, that path to that future timeline vision? And you can really, through being in trance, we can really bring that to life. And there's other techniques that we add into that, but you kind of, you see it, you feel it, you hear it, you visualize what that looks like. And it's amazing that you don't have to come up with the exact steps, but just that kind of creating that timeline in your mind starts to create the energy of action, starts to give you a clear path that you can literally see, because you can close your eyes and see what that timeline looks like. So it's just one of the techniques. So yes, there's no reason why, because it is the power of your own mind and belief systems, that can't be 100 years from now. And you can see what a vision is for the world that you want, or people that you love, or the legacy that you want to leave, or how, things that are important to you have manifested. So that's the beauty of it. It's completely open to your own power of imagination and subconscious.
Wow. That's amazing.
So yeah, that's, let's think about the timeline just of,
let's say that 100 years from now, there's no shit in the sea.
I would like to go 10 years if that's possible, please.
5.
And that's the beauty of it, right? We can start to bring those timelines closer to us. Now, what that means is, as we bring the timelines closer, there might feel like there's more action required, and that might cause a stress. So you kind of like ask yourself, what level what level, you know. And it's amazing when you say to people, is there any objection of why you can't do this now? And people's heads nod and shake, and you feel a click in your own body and your subconscious that says, yeah, I'm ready for this. Let's go. It's so powerful and beautiful, and simple.
And I think for us, it's like, obviously saying 5 years' time there isn't going to be a sewage system sounds like completely impossible. But once upon a time, there wasn't a sewage system. Do you see what I mean? Like, if the sewage system was able to be, if it was able to be created, there is, who knows, it might be an air fryer system. Do you know what I mean? Like, these things were not something that were they are not something that we permanently had. They are something that at some point a visionary managed to create. And so there is a way to create another system that is better serving.
Yeah, definitely. Well, on that note, I've got to go off and create on my timeline now. But thank you very much for joining us again today. And hopefully we haven't put off any, you know, Visit Brighton will come and see us, or Visit UK will be really pissed off with us because of the way we keep being so negative. But yeah, we love where we live, don't we? Really, we're very lucky. We're very grateful. We just feel that there's more beauty to be had around us if we're just kinder to our environment. That's all. So on that note, Kahreela, I wish you lots of love, and we will see you again soon.
May the life force be with you. We hope this conversation has topped up your life force energy. If it has, then please help us spread the life force. Like, share, subscribe, all of that. And may the life force be with all of us.